All right, Dave, how you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me in. Thank you.
It's good, man. Thanks for coming. It's always good to come to Shoreditch. Shoreditch is always a good idea.
Yeah, well, it's,
Definitely.
like, to be honest, when I've been around Shoreditch in many guises in my time,
Yeah.
Curated started in Old Street, and I think we've plotted around different areas of Shoreditch,
Yeah.
so it's definitely a lively hub.
Absolutely,
Definitely
mate.
for the sort of the content marketers and stuff and the agency world. So
100%.
yeah, and it's lovely space here.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's great. It's great to get on these sofas. I think it's the first time I'm doing these sofas. They're nice and comfy. And what we're going to be talking about today?
So we want to touch on strategy. So
Okay,
what strategy
yeah.
really means. I think in today's world, I think it can get misinterpreted because there's a lot of noise out there. And then we want to go into the in-housing model. I think I spoke on a previous podcast about this thing about being a scalpel and not a Swiss Army knife. I think there's a lot of full service kind of activity out there, but I think as an agency, you really need to know what your specialism and what you do to really add value to clients in this day and age.
Yeah.
And then actually what's really important for clients in terms of value positioning around return on investment and what return on investment really means, because I think, again, that gets misinterpreted. I think people
100%.
and agencies can throw out and don't sometimes understand, operations within a business. And again, I think I've spoken about this previously about in discovery about why a client should be looking at models that meet the needs of clients from an operational perspective. Really diving into what return on investment means.
Good man. Let's get on with it. Right, Dave, let's talk about strategy. There is strategy and then there is strategy. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, favourite subjects of mine, to be honest. I've gone through my career, started very much in paid media, paid media marketing, which was very advertising led. So I've had to learn the ropes in terms of what strategy really means in clients. I think what's really important to call out now, and sometimes gets misinterpreted, definitely in the agency world or planning world, is that strategy is something that never sleeps. There's no endpoint strategy. I think this idea of set piece plan or set piece battle, it's been thrown out. The dynamics in today's world, macro environment, is so volatile that within strategy, you need to bake in an element of agility. Strategy isn't, okay, I'm going to go and put 20 grand against a Facebook campaign or 50 grand against a PR campaign. Strategy has been able to look beyond what's going in front of your face at that time and then pinpointing times where you need to execute the right tactics within that strategy. I think it still gets really misinterpreted and missold to clients, definitely in the agency, between agency and brand world, because I don't think sometimes clients know what they're buying in there. I think strategy needs to be looked at more of a holistic thing and looked at from a macro point of view rather than sometimes a tactical micro point of view.
Let's talk a bit about that, actually. There's kind of more about the misinterpretations of strategy. So, kind of reminds me of conversations, with colleagues and, hearing people over the years, strategy being something that's set in place for 3 months or 6 months or 12 months, or God, in the corporate world, there's definitely been a few, or especially when it was like a few years before 2020, the 2020 strategy which was set like 6 years before.
5-year plans. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, let's talk a bit about that.
Yeah. So again, I come back to this idea of volatility, and we need to think about, if we look at it from a lens of military strategy, so to speak. There was a time back in the years of Napoleon. It was set piece battle plans. A war was fought and won in one day, and then you moved into the era of things like blitzkrieg and stuff like that, where it's agile, moving fast, moving forward. And this is what strategy is in this day world, in the corporate world. It's volatile, things change, you need to understand the contextual environment. So I think the problem is, if I was looking at it from a tactical point of view, a lot of clients will go out there and they will do what I call channel chasing. So they will go out and say, okay, our strategy is to go and spend, again, as I mentioned at the top of the show, spend 100k on a paid media play. But have they really thought about actually who is our audience? who are we looking to target? What is the job to be done of that audience? What kind of behavior change are we trying to execute from imparting this strategy? Then it's then looking at the communication method. What's the tone of voice? How are we going to communicate with that said customer to change the attitude or the behavior, or create behavior change? And then you think about the media planning behind it. I think the problem is, and this has been something that's come about with, some of the bigger, say the behemoths of the advertising world, the Alphabet / Google and the Metas of this world, they are pushing people to use their services because obviously it's beneficial from them from a commercial point of view.
Yeah, totally.
They have their place, definitely, but that's not strategy. That's advertising, and to a degree, it's a bit of planning. What agencies really need to do, and where the real value can be extracted from, is that initial audience planning piece, research, actually putting yourself in the shoes of the customer, understanding, okay, what are the triggers, what are the catalysts of behavior change for them, to then actually, and then that needs to be documented in terms of strategy of like how we're going to win as a business in this world. So for instance, from a curator's point of view, we were planning a red ocean of agencies offering performance marketing services. Yeah. We didn't have the scale, resources, or capabilities to grow within that market because that business model for us would be too hard to chase, so to speak, because we'd have to staff up, and then as soon as you staff up, your profitability is squeezed. Your revenues might be higher, but again, profit is king.
Yeah,
cash is king.
Yeah.
So that's when we decided to switch to this play of offering less people within business, but of experience and value that offered strategic services. Yeah. And I think that's something that's really valued by brands that we're working with. They actually want to feel like they're in a partnership and not just prescribing work to clients. The world's changing around us as well. So there was a really, really good, it was during COVID actually, I remember going, it was a really good webinar, and it's about understanding your value proposition to your clients, and how that has been reshaped off the dynamics caused by COVID. And this is one thing that we always need to consider within planning strategy. Strategy is not a one and done thing. Strategy changes, it's agile, and we need to consider the dynamics such as COVID, such as a cost of living crisis, such as the conflicts in Israel and Gaza right now. That's going to put squeeze on behaviours outside of this room. Let's be honest.
Definitely.
You can see this already. Fluctuations in petrol prices. That's going to put pressure on people's pockets. So that is going to cause behaviour change. Brands need to react to that behaviour change and need to adapt their strategy for it. Yeah. It isn't just about what we're doing on Google. Can we drive more impressions, more click-throughs? The vanity metrics. We need to be really thinking about this from a holistic point of view. Yeah, nice.
Look, I mean, you mentioned Red Ocean there, so kind of from the lean startup world in the book, so just because let's not spend too much time on it, but let's just talk about Red Ocean for people who don't know that.
So Red Ocean is ultimately, it's an element where there's, I suppose, a lot of opportunity, but because that opportunity is being squeezed by many sharks, so to speak, that there's going to be less fish in that ocean, and ultimately the opportunity is being squeezed. So if anyone's read the book Blue Ocean Strategy, the whole point is about taking your position in the market from being a red ocean into a blue ocean. And actually was one of the reasons behind our switch of strategy at Curated, which is something that we've gone through a transition period of where we've started to offer more what I'd call consultancy services, fractional CMO services to client, and changed our model around things like customer experience and persona development rather than straight up paid media play to create more of a blue ocean for ourselves, because we think there's a real gap in the market between those traditional die-in-the-wall agencies that are competing in the red ocean, still lots of opportunities, still a lot of revenue, but it's getting squeezed, to actually becoming a blue ocean, which is people generally what you'll find is the kind of services that we're looking to start to offer to clients or offering to clients right now are what you'd consider consultancy services. But then you're going up against, say, the big four. But in terms of price and value, we're competitive in that area. We're not saying we're not going to charge what a Kantar or what a Deloitte or KPMG would charge for those services. But also the beauty of our background being able to say, look, this is a strategic plan. This is your path to glory, so to speak. But we know how to deliver this. Yeah. We've been doing this for 10 years. I've been in the game nearly 15 years now, but like in terms of curated time, we know how to deliver this. And I think clients really buy into that, because what you're offering them is saying, we're not just going to hand over a 200-page deck to you and go, right, there's your master plan. Now you need to go and deliver it.
Yeah.
we can hold their hand through that process or shape ourselves around the way that our clients want to work in. I think the beauty of also working like that for us is that our promise statement, or the way that we work, is around delivering commercial goals, whether that's like discovering new audiences, new markets, or potentially new products for our clients to really innovate. Because we're not saying that, okay, what we're going to do is you're going to give us a product to sell, you're going to prescribe how that needs to be done, and we're going to go and do it for you, because that's a commodity. That's a commodity sale in today's agency world. And I think agencies need to move out of that space to really compete, definitely coming into the next 10 years.
Yeah, because, this is applicable to, I think, all businesses, this thing about trying to be everything to everybody and then being nothing to anybody as well. Like going through training and hearing it on YouTube, but, over the years, but especially remember being in a training session at Havas People where it was a guy saying, we've got 8 agency websites on here, and this is the headline from those websites. Can you tell who is who? No one could. I think maybe one person got one right.
Yeah.
So differentiation and niching down actually is, and specializing is really valuable, which takes you back to the point that you said about being the scalpel instead of the Swiss Army.
And, to go on that point as well, I think I've seen, look, some clients still value full service. They want all their work with one agency.
Yeah.
Totally. I can understand that, but that is definitely shifting. I think clients, I know just from discussions and from feedback, clients are valuing more having specialist services from different areas. Curated tried it. We tried to go full service in terms of like what we offered, and you end up just tying yourself in knots. In terms of the value you offer to the clients, it's not necessarily there because you're not a specialist in some areas. So, and again, it's the old, the analogy of like, you can get 95%, like I use the analogy of myself at home. I could do 95% of the jobs right at home, but that 5%, my wife's going to moan at me. So you've always got to consider that, you need to perfect what you're doing, and being a scalpel is a way that not only can you perfect what you're doing, you can also show expertise, you can gain trust, that gains referrals. And also your point about niching down is understanding some of the sectors that you play in. So for instance, health, wellness, fitness are 3 of the areas that we really specialize in. And we've really looked to double down in those areas. And that is coming to some fruition for us. And if health, wellness and fitness isn't necessarily a niche, but it's a focus. And I think, and I know there's a lot of conversation about differentiation and distinction, and I think Mark Ritson has a view on it that you can go both ways. I think it is really hard unless you're a brand and you're doing something really unique to differentiate in this day and age. So from an agency point of view, it's about finding that source of distinction. It's playing on that moment of truth for what's in the zeitgeist at the moment. And that's one of the things we've, like Curated, going for a bit of a rebrand at the moment, is that we've looked to play on that moment of truth in the zeitgeist. I think there's so much chaos and volatility in the world at the moment. And people want to feel assured and certain about the people that they're working with, because everything else is in flux. And I think that's our promise statement to our clients. It's a bit of a it's about transparency, no BS kind of approach, which you might have heard before, but it's also about being able to be brave, and challenge. Because I think brands also can be used to agencies going, we do that, we do that, we do that, without challenging. And I think that is the surefire way to reach fatigue with the client.
And it's like, I've we've covered it before, actually. I mean, we talked about it when you and James were on the pod, and also Robert Payton.
Yes.
He was in London, but he's gone back to, I think, California now. But he talked about, if you've got your own business, if you've got your own agency, there's a reason you got into it in the first place. But one forgets after a while, because of the thing about having to hit payroll, having to make sure that, you know, the till's still ringing. But it's this thing about looking at the amount of work you do as a business and then going, well, actually, probably the biggest value is coming from X percentage of your client base.
Well,
so focus on that.
You made a really good point there, is like, because coming back to that theme of, you know, what is strategy, so to speak, and, you know, as, you know, chief strategy officer at Curated, but we're, in terms of a team, we're quite small in headcount because we shape ourselves around experience and almost like a consultancy mentality. But you will get, in the way of staffing up around that, you will be pulled into the weeds, so to speak. So sometimes I have to sort of reflect on, you know, I will fall into the tactical bucket now and again. Yeah. And sometimes I have to reflect on, you know, actually, does this fit the strategy or the direction, not only the curate want to go, but the brand we're working with. And I think, look, I think anyone that's a strategist or strategy in a job finds the same. You know, you don't. You need. I always believe that. I believe in this mantra, the T-shaped individual, in terms of like going through your career, learning something really deep, and then broadening out, and then really understanding strategic play. Because I think anyone sort of you can parachute into a strategy role, but you need to understand what's going on as well. And I think that sometimes I do get dragged into that, but I think that's also good. I think that's something the clients also value from the way that Curated work and the way that we work at Curated, is that, you know, we are well versed in that part that they still do want, you know, planning and media delivery, they still do want. And they appreciate having someone with or members of experience that can deliver that. Because, you know, unfortunately, and this is nothing of a debt to have a go at like how bigger agencies staff up about, because juniors need to gain experience. But one of the complaints that I always hear about from brands is how you'll get a senior leadership team, business development, strategists at pitch, and then it gets funneled down to a junior team that, you know, but they haven't had the experience to really understand and immerse themselves in that business. And then it becomes a prescribed relationship that is soon becomes fatigued. So again, if we're looking at this, you know, strategic from an agency and a shift of model, it's really important to make sure you've got some key people that can really understand and immerse themselves in the business that they're working with.
It's true. Like, I mean, the whole strategy piece is such a fascinating topic, and it'll definitely be covered off again at some point on the pod. But yeah, thanks, mate. Looking forward to our next chat. But for this one, thank you, mate.
No worries.
Good stuff.